Good afternoon to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to our Tropical Weather Outlook video for today, Wednesday, July 16th, 2025. Today we are talking about Invest 93L, which is now in the Gulf. And as of today, it looks like it probably will not amount to much anymore in terms of being a developed tropical identity. As you can tell by the title, one big Slopfest in the Gulf is pretty much what it is right now. But it still will bring heavy rain to the northern Gulf Coast as we head into the rest of the week. I will talk about that, and I will talk about the future of the tropics in the Atlantic. We're going to go over all of it today. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get started by taking a look at the National Hurricane Center homepage right now. The latest advisory or tropical weather outlook from the National Hurricane Center as of 1:27 p.m. Let's actually see if this is updated yet for the 2 p.m. outlook. Not yet, but there probably will not really be that much of a change. In fact, wouldn't be surprised if they lower the chances a little bit for Invest 93L, because right now it is a medium percent chance. Still was at a medium chance yesterday. 40% chance in the next 48 hours, and 7 days also at 40%. Surface and radar observations indicate that a broad area of low pressure is moving westward across the Florida Panhandle between Tallahassee and Panama City. The associated shower and thunderstorm activity is disorganized and located mainly south and southwest of the center. The system is forecast to continue moving westward and could emerge or redevelop over the far northeastern to north-central portion of the Gulf later today or tonight, reaching the coast of Louisiana by Thursday. If the system moves far enough offshore, environmental conditions over the Gulf appear generally favorable for additional development, and a tropical depression could still form over the next couple of days before the system moves fully inland by the end of the week. Regardless of development, heavy rainfall could produce localized flash flooding over portions of Florida through, it looks like they had a typo there, throughout today. Heavy rainfall could also cause flash flooding for portions of the north-central Gulf Coast beginning late today and continuing through Friday. For additional information, obviously go to the Weather Prediction Center and the National Weather Service, and I will actually show you some products from the Weather Prediction Center in just a little bit. But that last paragraph that I just read you is especially what you need to take away from 93L, and I think that's really the most important thing we should be focusing on regarding the system anyways, given that development is still very much up in the air. And at least to me, I'll show you why I believe it in just a little bit, but I think the chances are honestly starting to go down that this actually develops and becomes a designatable fully tropical system. Really quickly, let's take a look at what's happening in the East Pac. Nothing expected over the next 7 days. Probably going to continue to remain quiet there for the foreseeable future, which is obviously a good thing. Here's the latest satellite imagery of 93L over the Gulf right now, and you can see, as I said in the title, it is just one big-ass mess. Lots of convective activity over the Gulf right now, but do not be fooled, because the center of circulation with 93L is still on shore. In fact, it is over the Florida Panhandle right now, right near Tallahassee and I think Panama City, and I actually have the radar to prove it to you. Here's the latest radar loop from the NextRad base reflectivity. This is put together by Cyclonic Weather, and you can see where the circulation of 93L is. It's still inland over portions of the Florida Panhandle. We have a few showers and thunderstorms right now moving through Tallahassee, and also a small line of storms moving through Panama City right now, with, again, the majority of the heavy rainfall off the coast over the Gulf of Mexico right now. So this system is very much disorganized. It is not at all stacked, and you can even see it here with the 850 millibar vorticity. A lot of it is still on land. So the more this stays on land, and the more this kind of tracks close to the coast, because yesterday it was supposed to come off land and potentially already be, including its low-level center, it was already supposed to be over the Gulf of Mexico by now. But yesterday afternoon, we had this very quick, very northward shift in the low-level vortex with 93L, partially because there was a lot of northerly shear over the system, which did not allow it to organize any further and actually become potentially a tropical system, which I believe I said yesterday that if it only had a little bit more time and if it was not for all of the northerly shear that we had while it was off the Florida coast, I honestly believe that this probably would have become a tropical depression or maybe even a weak tropical storm before crossing into the Florida coast. But it didn't happen. It ended up very disorganized, and the low-level center ended up tracking inland. And as a result, where we once again have this very big slop fest of the low-level vorticity still stuck on land, and all of the convective activity over the water. And none of it is really organizing to. I suggested yesterday that maybe we might have some sort of center reformation occur within 93L, because the mid-level center, pretty much where all this cloud cover is and all this convective activity is so far displaced from the low-level center with 93L that I thought that maybe it was going to try to reform its center a little bit further south over the waters of the Gulf of Mexico, but so far that has not happened. And at least if you look at the model track guidance today so far associated with 93L, they don't really suggest that happening either. They kind of suggest that this will just remain on its current course right now. I guess there's a little bit of a southerly dip in the models, and this does try to barely go back over the waters of the Gulf of Mexico right near the northern coastline before it eventually ends up over Louisiana sometime around this time tomorrow. But in terms of development, I don't know if this really is enough anymore. I mean, this is so far north, and again, it's just a huge slop of just mess of convective thunderstorms and nothing really organized. But as I said, regardless of development, this was still going to produce heavy rainfall, and this is producing heavy rainfall right now for portions of the central northern Gulf Coast, and it will continue to do so over the next several days. In fact, I'll show you the Weather Prediction Center excessive rainfall outlook for the next 3 days. Here's the day one outlook, which is for today. And as you can see, we have a marginal risk for flooding rain over the coast, and slight risk for portions of southeastern Louisiana and a small sliver of the Mississippi coast. And then tomorrow, it expands. The risk ends up overtaking pretty much the entire northern Gulf Coast, and the slight risk area for excessive rainfall expands too. And then as we head into Friday, this is when the bulk of the moisture is really going to move inland over Louisiana associated with 93L. We even have a moderate risk in effect for portions of pretty much almost the entirety of central and southern Louisiana, even extending into portions of Texas, and in general, pretty much the entire northern Gulf Coast from central Texas to the Florida Panhandle is under risk of some sort for excessive rainfall. And in fact, that excessive rainfall threat will probably extend inland as well, over portions of the southeast in the coming days too. In fact, I'll show you the rainfall forecast for the next 7 days, and just look at how much rainfall we're going to have over portions of the Gulf Coast. In fact, lots of areas here, you even see some shadings of precipitation expected just over half a foot of rain. So a lot of rain going to fall over the next few days over the northern Gulf Coast, and a lot of rainfall too over here throughout the Midwest as well. Not sure, and probably not going to at all be really related to 93L here, or at least most of this will not be related to 93L. Although maybe as the energy of 93L moves inland, it'll probably help contribute to some extra rainfall here throughout the southeast and the deep south. But as I always say, and I've been repeating for the last several days, heavy rainfall is the biggest killer when it comes to tropical cyclones, even if they are not tropical cyclones. And we certainly see our share of that over the past several weeks. And it looks like we are once again gearing up for another heavy rainfall event here across the central Gulf Coast. So please Keep a watch out for 93L, even if it won't develop, which I'm very skeptical now that it will. Looks like it's probably just going to ride the northern Gulf Coast and bring heavy rain for the next several days, but that rain could be heavy. In fact, we have a pretty significant risk for flash flooding, and that in itself is enough of a threat that is very much of a nuisance, and you need to watch out for and keep in mind over the next several days. But really quickly, just going to show you the models here to show why I'm not kind of, seal the deal as to why I'm not enthusiastic about 93L developing. This is the GFS model for the next several days. You can just see here the energy or the vorticity of 93L pretty much just rides the northern Gulf Coast. It doesn't actually, try to come out and consolidate in the very short time it has over water of the Gulf Coast, and then, as you can see, just ends up over southern Louisiana, and then just kind of hangs out as we head into the end of the week over the southeast, and then eventually gets out of our hair, and then looks like another piece of energy is going to come down from the southeast coast, break off, and end up making its way over Florida, as you can see here on the GFS, at least on the 12Z. And very interestingly enough, this is hour 168 to hour 174. Maybe we'll have another chance of something trying to consolidate here in the Gulf. We'll see, but looks like the cycle is going to repeat itself over the next week, so we'll have to watch to see maybe if that will actually try to develop and become something. But at least for 93L, you can see pretty much on the GFS, nothing of any organized sort to speak of. The Euro, pretty much the same, and this is actually very interesting. This is going back to this time yesterday, pretty much this time yesterday, because this is 18Z yesterday, which was roughly 2 p.m. yesterday, and it's almost 2 p.m. right now. Very organized low that we had moving into northern Florida. And I also said that I was very skeptical of this actually moving into northern Florida, because a lot of the models were having this moving in over northern Florida, but the low level center was all the way down here near central Florida, and I thought it was going to continue south and emerge over the Gulf by now and probably try to consolidate. I was almost pretty much coming on board with the Icon, because if you remember, this system was actually overperforming quite a bit east of Florida, and the Icon seemed like it was the only model that was catching on to it. But it seems like the models were actually right in terms of the track, that this was somehow going to swing last minute into Florida, and that's exactly what it did. But it consolidated quite a bit, and that's why I say, if it was not for the disorganized setup that we had with a lot of very strong wind shear associated with it, I really would not be shocked if 93L would have become a tropical depression before it made landfall in Florida yesterday. In fact, there are actually some people that say it did indeed become a tropical depression pretty much before it went into Florida yesterday. But obviously it is now inland, and as you can see with the European, again, it rides the coast of the northern Gulf, barely tries to consolidate a little bit right as it comes into southeastern Louisiana here, but as you can see, it pretty much remains on the coast and then just rides it, and then eventually moves inland as we head into the end of the week. And then finally the Icon pretty much shows the same thing, and then it just moves inland and brings heavy rainfall as we head into the end of the week for the central Gulf Coast. So that is pretty much just about the biggest threat right now, is the heavy rainfall and the flash flooding potential. No longer looks like we're going to get a fully developed tropical system out of this, or at least I don't think so, although, stranger things have happened. Things can change very rapidly during the hurricane season, so you never know. But and even if this were to still become a tropical system, still the main threat would be the heavy rainfall. But the only difference is that we would just have a name to call it. So we would have something specific to designate it. But other than that, I think the threat would still be pretty much the same, and that would be the heavy rainfall. And that is still going to be the case regardless of this becoming a tropical system. And that's pretty much what I said all along, and that's pretty much what is going to happen right now. But it looks like development chances, at least for the rest of the month, may not be over, or at least our chance to get our next tropical storm before the month is over is not over. This is a very interesting tweet I saw this morning from Matt on Twitter. He says that the EPS is showing a window at the end of the month, and the EPS is starting to pick up on a possible wave of interest in the MDR pretty much in the next 7 to 10 days. Not necessarily for development, but we'll see how waves may fare as we go further into the season. So actually, I guess he's not necessarily suggesting that there will be development, but bottom line is what he's trying to say is it looks like as we head towards the end of the month, conditions might become more favorable. And you can clearly see here there are a few ensemble members that try to spin up something here in the MDR. So maybe our chances for development are not actually done for the rest of the month after all. And I've actually been talking about this for the past several weeks. It looks like we're going to have an MJO pulse and a period of rising motion and favorable velocity potential anomalies as we get into the Atlantic, as we get towards the end of the month and into the start of next month. And just maybe will that actually start to ramp things up here in the Atlantic a little bit, and maybe we might actually be seeing those signals begin to appear on the models for now. So, of course, we'll have to watch that over the next several weeks, and we'll continue to watch 93L and see if it does indeed actually try to consolidate very briefly before it heads into Louisiana tomorrow. But once again, regardless of development, please keep in mind of the heavy rainfall, especially after all of the events that we've seen over the last several weeks. Please do not get caught off guard. I will continue to have updates throughout the rest of today on, Twitter. So if you want to follow me for that, same name as I have here on YouTube, search me up on Twitter at Danilo Evangelista, and turn on and follow me and turn on the notification bell there so you can get notifications whenever I upload a tweet. And also subscribe to me and turn the notification bell here on YouTube so you can get whenever I upload videos the moment I upload, which I will continue to do them throughout the rest of the season, and of course throughout the rest of the month, monitoring what happens in the tropics. With that being said, I'm going to end off for today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, all those good stuff. Enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe. Peace, love, and kindness to you all. I'll be back with more tomorrow.